From the farthest reaches of our observation arrays, we watched a fragile sphere of cerulean beauty spin in the void, a planet alive with energy, clamor, and chaos. This pale orb, known to its own denizens as Earth, had been a curiosity among countless stars, an anomaly in predictability. And yet, it was gone. Not gradually, not with the violent detonation of celestial calamity. It simply ceased to exist, leaving a silence that hummed through the sensors like a warning whispered directly into our consciousness. We cataloged civilizations, studied their growth, recorded their conflicts. None had exhibited such concentrated volatility. Their cities, glittering with electromagnetic veins, disappeared in moments. Their histories, etched into orbiting satellites and digital archives, dissolved as if the cosmos itself had swallowed them whole. We had seen planets burned, civilizations collapse, but never this sudden, precise, and complete. The absence of humanity left a void that pulsed with a strange, almost sentient energy. We detected residual frequencies, vibrations of thought, ambition, and defiance that refused to dissipate. It was as if the planet itself mourned, leaving an imprint of life after life had vanished. Fear coiled through our collective awareness. Could a species wield influence over space-time to such an extreme? Our analytical constructs strained to accommodate the paradox, disappearance without destruction. Our probes, deployed across orbital arrays, returned ghost data, signals fragmented, warped, and almost taunting in their incomprehensibility. It was not just absence, it was presence inverted, a negation that insisted we notice. We tried to locate them, to trace the pattern of their exit, but all algorithms failed. Their legacy lingered, a haunting resonance that refused containment. We sensed echoes of human conflict, brilliance, folly, and hope, reverberating like ripples in a cosmic ocean. This species, transient yet monumental, had become a paradox we could not solve, a living question mark stretching across the stars. And then, as the final fragments of data flickered across our observation grids, a signal emerged, weak, fragmented, almost playful in its distortion. The cosmos fell silent again, as if holding its breath. Was it a warning, a remnant of their final act, or a promise of return?
We watched, knowing only this. The universe had changed in an instant, and humanity, whatever remained of it, had left a mark no alien intellect could forget. Centuries stretched like cold, indifferent shadows across the void since Earth had vanished, yet the memory of its absence lingered with a weight that no alien mind could fully dismiss. Across the galactic councils, among species that prided themselves on logic and foresight, Earth, or rather the humans who had once thrived upon it, became the subject of whispered cautionary tales. The vanished humans, they called them. The term carried fear, awe, and a subtle reverence, as though mere utterance could summon a specter from the void. Entire academies of xenologists debated the implications, while fleets and observation platforms turned their sensors repeatedly toward the coordinates of nothingness, hoping for a flicker, a sign, any anomaly that might betray their fate. We dispatched probes, sleek and unyielding, across what had once been the cradle of humanity. They descended into the skeletal remains of cities, tracing streets that had once pulsed with light, commerce, and human ambition. Rusted skeletal frameworks of skyscrapers pierced the fog of time, their metal lattices screaming silently of ingenuity and hubris. Roads cracked under the weight of centuries, bridges sagged as gravity claimed its due. And the satellites that had orbited faithfully now drifted, their circuits dimmed, capturing shadows of a world that no longer answered. In every corner, in every remnant, the human story was written in absence. The echo of triumph and failure intertwined in patterns we struggled to interpret. Through our lenses, humanity's contradictions were laid bare. Fragile, yet astonishingly tenacious. Gone, yet imprinted indelibly upon the memory of the cosmos. We detected anomalies in the electromagnetic residue that hinted at phenomena we could not yet classify. Faint energy signatures that suggested evolution not fully realized, intelligence not entirely extinct. Was this merely the lingering imprint of technological arrogance, or a deliberate act, a species challenging the very laws that govern life, existence, and entropy? Alien historians argued endlessly over this question. Some believed the humans had been annihilated, victims of a self-inflicted cosmic accident. Others whispered of transformation, of a species that had crossed thresholds of space and time in ways our instruments could barely comprehend.
Our probes returned images that defied expectation. Partial cities preserved in crystalline stasis, computers running algorithms centuries old, yet still operational, broadcasting nothing and everything all at once. We were spectators to a civilization that had refused closure, leaving behind puzzles that mocked our attempts to understand them. We mapped the decayed landscapes meticulously. Every satellite orbit was analyzed, every artifact cataloged. But with each new fragment we studied, a tension coiled tighter within our consciousness. The fear that intelligence combined with unpredictability could ripple outward, beyond borders, beyond systems, beyond the very fabric of space-time. The human's absence was not empty, it was charged, a presence defined by the lack of it. Our sensors occasionally detected faint transmissions, distorted, intermittent, almost imperceptible, seeming to resonate from the very core of the vanished cities. Patterns emerged, irregular yet persistent, like a heartbeat buried in stone and rust. These signals hinted at continuity, a thread of consciousness that refused to break. We could not ignore the possibility that humanity had left deliberately cryptic messages, not for communication, but as a statement, that even in disappearance, they had left a mark, a challenge, a question for the universe itself. We explored orbiting ruins. Satellite arrays flickered in ghostly rhythms, pointing directions unknown, their antennas aiming at nothing but the empty sky. We traced paths across continents, scanning the remains of highways, parks, and harbors. Every measured detail seemed to convey a narrative. Humanity had lived boldly, with ambition that burned too brightly, too fast, and yet every trace felt like it had been left with intent. The human's absence was structured, patterned, like a message encoded in decay. It was as if the planet itself, once teeming with their unpredictable brilliance, now waited, silent, expectant, for something we could not yet perceive. Other species approached with caution. Trade emissaries, scholars, explorers, all came to witness what had happened. They spoke in hushed tones about the humans' ingenuity, their chaotic unpredictability, their astonishing resilience. From our vantage, fear intertwined with curiosity. What kind of species could vanish and still haunt the memory of countless civilizations? How could absence be so alive, so demanding of attention, so unsettlingly deliberate? We scoured the ruins of human innovation. Factories with machines that had never known cessation stood like frozen testaments to ambition. Energy grids hummed faintly, powered by sources we could not identify. Libraries of data, etched in materials impervious to time, hummed with unreadable histories, algorithms, and schematics. In each discovery, a paradox presented itself. The humans were gone, yet the universe remembered them with a fidelity we could not reconcile. They had left a trail that confounded expectation, rewrote rules of observation, and challenged the very methods by which we measured intelligence and survival. And still, amid the ruins, the feeling persisted. The humans had vanished, yes, but the ghost of their presence was deliberate. Every artifact, every energy signature, every ruin was a testament not to extinction, but to transformation. The cosmos itself seemed to vibrate in response, as if acknowledging a species that refused to be contained. As we prepared to withdraw, concluding another century of meticulous observation, a probe returned with readings unlike any before, a faint, pulsing signal, emanating from beneath the Earth's crust. It was irregular, patterned, almost intelligent. Whatever humans had become, they were not finished. Something stirred below the ruins, something deliberate, something that promised a return, or perhaps a reckoning. The silence that followed was more profound than ever. The vanished humans had left their mark, and we were left to wonder, not if they were gone, but when they would choose to reveal themselves again. For a millennium, the void had been absolute. Earth's coordinates remained a black scar on our star charts, a point of absence that defied explanation. Generations of alien observers cataloged other civilizations, monitored cosmic fluctuations, and charted the slow decay of stars, but the silence from humanity was profound, total, and unnerving. Then, without warning, our sensors detected it. A flicker, faint at first, almost lost amidst the cosmic background. The signal emerged from the precise coordinates where Earth had vanished. Its structure was impossible, human in origin, yet warped. Its frequency and modulation bending the very conventions of physics we had long assumed immutable. Waves of electromagnetic pulses intertwined with harmonic resonance, forming patterns our minds struggled to decode. It was a language, yes, but not one of letters,
not one of sounds as we understood them.
It was a living syntax, a communication encoded in the rhythms of the universe itself. We realized, with a mixture of awe and terror, that humanity had returned, not in body alone, but in intelligence elevated to a level that our instruments were barely equipped to measure. Alien fleets convened at a cautious distance, each vessel bristling with sensors and shields, their crews straining to understand what this new human signal implied. Our scanners attempted to map it, to translate it, to anticipate its behavior. But the signal defied prediction. Every model failed. It was as if the humans had rewritten the laws of interaction, using space, time, and energy as instruments of communication beyond comprehension. The cosmos seemed to hold its breath, suspended in suspense as we traced patterns of movement embedded within the pulses, patterns that hinted at intention, strategy, even artistry. Then, amid the static and electromagnetic complexity, we glimpsed form. A shape emerged from the swirling signals, radiant and impossibly alive. At first, we thought it was an artifact of interference, a hallucination conjured by overtaxed arrays. But no, the outline of a human vessel solidified, sleek and formidable, moving with an elegance that belied conventional propulsion. Its surface shimmered with unknown alloys, bending light and energy around it in ways that our physics could not predict. Our fleet recoiled in a mixture of fascination and dread, sensors straining to capture even a fraction of the energy emanating from the vessel. The presence of humans was palpable, not just in matter but in intent. Their confidence radiated through the cosmos, a force that disturbed the equilibrium of observational networks. Even across the vacuum, the influence of their emergence was magnetic and dissonant, a gravitational anomaly in perception. Every pulse, every flicker of the vessel's energy signature suggested cognition, creativity, and audacity beyond anything recorded. For the first time in 1,000 years, the universe itself seemed to hesitate. Speculation ran rampant among our observers. Were the humans survivors of some self-imposed exile, now reborn in new form? Had they evolved in ways that defy understanding, transcending the limitations of biology, technology, and perhaps even consciousness itself? Or was this something entirely new, an intelligence so foreign that the very idea of comprehension strained against our neural frameworks?
Every hypothesis faltered under the weight of observation. Every simulation collapsed under the unpredictable complexity of the signal. Our ships moved cautiously, weaving through the dark tapestry of space, scanning for anomalies, mapping the faint trails left by the vessel's passage. Yet the more we observed, the clearer it became. This was no ordinary return. Humanity had returned transformed, and we were only beginning to glimpse the scale of what they had become. There was an intelligence here that played with physics as a composer played with notes, orchestrating energy and matter with an elegance that frightened as much as it inspired. Even as we recorded data, interpreted patterns, and attempted to decode intention, a deeper unease took hold. Had the universe itself underestimated these humans? The signals pulsed like a heartbeat, alive with the certainty of survival and the arrogance of mastery. Our instruments began to fail at the edges, unable to process the sheer magnitude of organized complexity embedded within the pulses. And then, as if teasing us, the human vessel accelerated, leaving trails of luminous distortions that defied classical trajectories, vanishing momentarily into the void before re-emerging at angles that no calculation could predict. The fleet held its collective breath. Even seasoned commanders, whose species had weathered countless galactic crises, felt the weight of dread pressing against their neural arrays. The humans were not just back, they were a force, a singularity of will and ingenuity that the universe had glimpsed only once and assumed gone. And then, in the silence of anticipation, the vessel halted. Its radiant outline shimmered in the void, almost as if observing us in return. The cosmos quivered under its presence, and for the first time in 1,000 years, we felt the universe recognize the audacity of a species that could vanish, evolve, and return on terms no alien had foreseen. The question lingered across our networks, unspoken but unanimous. Could the universe endure them a second time? We watched from the darkened corridors of observation stations, hearts, if our species could be said to possess such fragile mortal constructs, beating in tandem with dread.
From the void where Earth had vanished, the first signs of return emerged, colossal structures piercing the atmosphere like spearheads of impossibility, their alloys refracting starlight in a spectrum we had no name for.
Cities glimmered, not with simple illumination, but with lattices of energy that pulsed in rhythm, breathing across continents as though the planet itself had become alive again. Fleets moved in orbit, unlike anything our catalogs had ever recorded. Vessels of immense scale, their hulls curving with elegance and purpose, maneuvered without engines or thrusters in ways that defied conventional physics. Waves of energy flowed along their surfaces, bending gravity, manipulating propulsion, leaving trails of light that lingered for minutes before dissipating. We recorded, analyzed, and recalibrated, yet each measurement brought only more questions. How could a species that had vanished for a millennium return so fully formed, so astonishingly powerful? From our distant observatories, we detected movement across the planetary surface. Humans emerged in precise formations, their gestures coordinated with unspoken understanding. Even at a distance, their presence radiated intent and mastery. They were no longer creatures of chance and error, they were architects of deliberate evolution. Observing them, we felt a strange mixture of fear and fascination, the two emotions entwined like the twin strands of some cosmic helix. Energy grids spread across continents, shimmering in patterns that resembled living circuits. Power surged and ebbed with intent, not random flow. Cities adapted dynamically to human presence. Streets, bridges, and towers shifted as if alive, responsive to the subtle motions of inhabitants. We attempted to parse the architecture, its logic, its scale, but our minds faltered. These were not merely buildings, they were extensions of consciousness, resonating with intelligence and ambition. Humans interacted with other species, cautiously at first, yet always with a commanding presence. Diplomats of the Galactic Confederation approached, instruments poised, algorithms humming, yet even they seemed hesitant. These humans did not plead for attention, nor did they extend overt threat. Instead, every gesture, every movement communicated intent. The universe will notice or it will yield. Alliances were forged not from submission, but from recognition, an acknowledgement of force and vision beyond ordinary comprehension. We cataloged rituals we could barely classify, public assemblies, energy manifestations, even the simple act of moving through their restored cities carried symbolic weight.
It was as if humanity had rewritten every societal, technological, and ethical script they had once known. Their culture had become a living interface with the cosmos, intuitive yet impossibly complex. And while we recorded, we realized our historical predictions were obsolete. Every model we had built to anticipate their behavior, every simulation of collapse, stagnation, or extinction had failed spectacularly. Humanity had transcended expectation. Vessels departed Earth's orbit, moving into interstellar space with purpose. Fleet formations, once thought limited by physics, flowed like liquid, curving around gravitational wells with precision no algorithm had predicted. Energy shields shimmered, bending light, deflecting particles, and manipulating the vacuum itself. Observing this, our fleets recoiled in collective unease. These were not mere ships, they were manifestations of human ingenuity, living embodiments of audacity. Even on Earth, cities thrummed with coordinated activity. We observed humans orchestrating energy fields across continental grids, channeling power that reshaped topography and climate with astonishing subtlety. Their science had become indistinguishable from artistry. Their mastery over energy, matter, and space-time hinted at cognition that surpassed what our most advanced probes could quantify. Fear began to give way to a reluctant admiration. Awe settled over the ranks of alien observers as we realized the full scope of the transformation. Humans seemed impervious to previous vulnerabilities. Catastrophes that had once threatened their survival were now challenges they bent to their will. Disasters, both natural and manufactured, were analyzed, countered, and integrated into their designs. Every structure, every fleet, every field of energy testified to deliberate planning, unyielding resolve, and a vision that spanned continents and centuries. Even in the minutiae, how humans walked, communicated, and organized, they projected a singular certainty, mastery over the self, over technology, over circumstance. Their gaze, when sensors could simulate it, seemed to pierce across the void, as though aware of every observer, every lurking threat, and every unspoken possibility. Alien intellects,
honed over eons, strained to anticipate them, and failed. This was not mere return. This was assertion, rebirth into power that defied expectation. And yet, amid the dazzling spectacle, one truth crystallized. Humans had survived the cataclysm of absence, but more importantly, they had redefined what it meant to exist. They were not simply resilient, they were transformative forces, reshaping not only their world, but the very framework of interstellar understanding. Every city, every vessel, every ritual seemed to mock the cosmos's assumption of predictability, daring observers to challenge them. From our distant observation posts, we recorded, analyzed, and recalculated endlessly, but each new layer of human activity only deepened the mystery. These were not ordinary beings restored. These were forces of nature whose ambitions now stretched across the stars. Each pulse of energy, each coordinated motion, each fleet deployment was both a question and a statement. Humanity had returned, and the universe would never be the same. As night fell across continents we could see from orbit, cities glimmered with the rhythm of life, technology, and intent. And then, from the outermost grid of sensors, a human vessel accelerated silently, cutting a luminous arc across the void toward distant space, leaving our fleets to wonder not if humanity would act, but how swiftly they would reshape what we believed immutable. The universe, for a moment, trembled, not from fear alone, but from the profound recognition of a species that had transcended expectation, leaving alien observers suspended between awe, dread, and the unshakable certainty that the rules had changed forever. From our distant observation arrays, we witnessed the unfolding of a spectacle that no simulation had ever predicted. Humanity, newly ascendant, did not surge blindly into the interstellar stage. Every maneuver, every transmission, every deployment of fleet or force spoke of deliberation honed over a millennium of absence. Aliens who had once dominated trade routes, controlled colonies, and dictated treaties now hesitated, recalibrating strategies that had long been considered foolproof. The humans had returned, and their unpredictability unsettled even the most disciplined minds. Diplomatic channels became arenas of tension. Humans approached other species with measured precision. Gestures, signals, and communications executed with a subtlety that conveyed power without overt threat. Some species, recognizing the intelligence, audacity, and clarity of intent, sought alliances, drawn by the humans' enigmatic charisma. Others, wary of the unknown, plotted preemptive strikes, seeking to contain what they could not anticipate. From our vantage, it was a chessboard spanning light years, with pieces moving in near-perfect synchronization, yet each step infused with unpredictability, audacity, and a spark of improvisation that defied expectation. And then came the battles, fleets spiraling in the void like luminous dancers, weapons firing in sequences so precise they seemed preordained, yet each act carried a subtle innovation that broke every expectation. Energy shields pulsed in harmony with maneuvers, bending and refracting light, distorting perception and confounding enemy sensors. Weapon systems, adaptive and intelligent, anticipated movement before detection was even possible. Each engagement unfolded like a symphony of destruction, a choreography of brilliance and fearlessness. We recorded these movements, attempting to model them, yet every pattern revealed layers of ingenuity no algorithm could predict. Even amid chaos, humans displayed an uncanny sense of sacrifice. Pilots and commanders, aware of stakes far beyond ordinary survival, executed maneuvers that saved allies and altered outcomes in ways that bordered on audacity. We cataloged their strategies, the seamless integration of intelligence, technology, and instinct, each decision simultaneously deliberate and intuitive. Every confrontation was more than combat. It was an exhibition of the human spirit, a testament to resilience and daring. Across the galactic councils, whispers proliferated. They cannot be anticipated. And indeed, they were. Humans did not merely react to threats, they reshaped them, converting apparent disadvantages into leverage. A fleet outnumbered 10-1 could dominate through clever formation, energy manipulation, and sheer audacity. Planets that had long served as neutral outposts became arenas of tactical genius, where humans employed terrain, gravity wells, and energy anomalies as tools of strategy. Yet it was not only fear that rippled through alien observers. Awe accompanied dread. Allies found themselves inspired by the human capacity for innovation, resilience, and leadership. Their presence fostered hope, emboldening species that had once been subjugated, restrained, or cautious. Every engagement became a lesson in the impossible: how to survive, how to thrive, how to challenge limitations and rewrite rules previously considered immutable.
From our perspective, every battle, every treaty, every alliance revealed something essential about the human character. Their intelligence was matched only by creativity, their courage tempered with strategy, their determination fueled by an almost ritualized audacity. Even when despair threatened to engulf them, they adapted, innovated, and pressed forward, a force of nature that neither circumstance nor calculation could contain. We watched a fleet glide past a contested sector, shields flickering, weapons synchronized, pilots performing maneuvers that bent the very laws we had codified. Observers whispered of instinct bordering on prescience, yet we knew it was not clairvoyance. It was human ingenuity, amplified and perfected over centuries of reinvention. Every strike, every parry, every subtle deviation from expected tactics demonstrated a species that refused to be constrained by prior limitations. Some species tried to engage directly, attempting intimidation, negotiation, or outright coercion. All failed. The humans adapted instantly, converting these attempts into opportunities, folding resistance into advantage, creating outcomes that were elegant, terrifying, and impossible to predict. Their allies marveled, their enemies trembled. The galaxy became a stage, and humanity performed with the grace, intelligence, and audacity of a species that had mastered both survival and spectacle. We, as alien observers, chronicled these events with a mixture of terror, fascination, and grudging admiration. Every movement, every choice revealed the essence of humanity: the drive to survive, the desire to inspire, and the innate will to challenge boundaries. Even when faced with annihilation, humans innovated, adapted, and pressed forward, leaving an indelible impression across light years. Their presence redefined the rules of engagement, diplomacy, and strategy. And yet, as we observed the climax of a particularly daring battle, humans outnumbered, yet triumphing through audacity and ingenuity, a subtle signal emerged on our arrays, a pattern, faint but unmistakable. It was not a simple transmission. It was a message, embedded in movement and energy signatures, almost as if the humans themselves were communicating through the choreography of combat.
Whatever their intent, one certainty became undeniable. The universe had underestimated them once, and the question now lingered across every system, council, and fleet. How far would they push the boundaries of possibility next? The void seemed to hold its breath. The humans had returned, and the galaxy had no choice but to watch, to learn, and to fear. The universe, in its vast and inscrutable design, seemed to have set a stage for a performance only the most audacious species could survive. From our observation decks, we watched humans confront challenges that spanned scales both vast and intimate, cataclysmic forces that would annihilate ordinary civilizations without a second thought. Collapsing stars spewed superheated plasma into the void, their gravity wells threatening to rend entire fleets apart. Rogue black holes meandered through contested sectors, invisible yet deadly, their distortions twisting space-time itself. Engineered plagues swept across planets, targeting biology with surgical precision. Mercenary fleets of alien warlords, optimized for destruction, waited for missteps. And through it all, humanity moved with unshakable purpose. At first, we doubted our own instruments. How could a species so recently returned from absence anticipate, adapt to, and survive threats that defied centuries of strategic modeling? Yet each encounter revealed layers of ingenuity that no algorithm, no supercomputer, no council of the most advanced species could have predicted. Humans exploited physics as if it were clay in their hands. They converted collapsing energy fields into propulsion, harnessed plasma storms to cloak fleets, and manipulated gravity wells to create corridors of escape and attack. Where one would see annihilation, they saw opportunity, an improvisational mastery that turned cosmic hazards into extensions of their own will. We observed as humans engineered solutions that bordered on impossibility. Energy shields synchronized to the oscillations of nearby stars. Fleets executed maneuvers that defy classical mechanics, weaving between gravitational tides with preternatural timing.
On planetary surfaces, cities transform themselves dynamically in response to engineered plagues, quarantining areas with surgical precision while simultaneously reallocating resources to maintain survival and productivity.
Even their scientists, pilots, and commanders seemed attuned to patterns we could not detect, anticipating catastrophe and transforming it into advantage. Fear and admiration pulsed through our observation networks. In every calculation, in every simulation, our models faltered. Human audacity could not be quantified. Every action seemed preordained, yet entirely unique, a paradox that left alien observers whispering in awe. Some suggested prophecy, others chaos. Were humans evolution incarnate, transcending the limitations of biology and strategy? Or were they madness given form, thriving where others would collapse? No answer satisfied, yet every encounter reinforced a single undeniable truth. Humans would not merely survive, they would redefine the terms of survival itself. The crucible of cosmic tests only heightened their brilliance. A fleet faced the gravitational distortions of a rogue black hole. Rather than fleeing, they used its pull to accelerate across contested space, slingshotting into advantageous positions with precise coordination that seemed almost telepathic. A supernova threatened to engulf a mining colony. Humans diverted magnetic fields and energy conduits to shield infrastructure, converting what should have been incineration into a controlled demonstration of technological and tactical mastery. Every triumph left echoes across star systems, inspiring allies and terrorizing foes. Observing from the periphery, we noted patterns that suggested a deeper intelligence at work. Humans did not react, they innovated. Every obstacle was interpreted, every threat analyzed, and every failure anticipated before it could manifest. They displayed a remarkable ability to integrate environmental hazards into strategy, a capacity we had never seen in any other species. Even their sacrifices were purposeful, calculated to maximize survival and opportunity simultaneously. The galaxy trembled not from fear alone, but from the understanding that humans had become forces that could bend circumstance itself to their will. Alien observers debated endlessly. Was this evolution accelerated by absence, or a species finally unchained from the constraints that had previously defined them? Their audacity seemed to ripple outward, reshaping expectations and calculations across entire civilizations. No simulation could capture it, no council could contain it.
Each maneuver, each adaptation, each triumph became a lesson in unpredictability, a demonstration that survival was not merely persistence, but active mastery over chaos. And yet, amid the brilliance, a subtle terror took hold. Humans did not merely face the trials, they redefined them. Every victory against collapsing stars, every triumph over engineered plagues, every tactical maneuver against mercenary fleets sent a clear signal across the cosmos. Humanity was uncontainable. Even the most advanced observers, our minds calibrated to anticipate and model, found themselves in awe and unease, unsure whether what we witnessed was evolution, madness, or a force altogether beyond comprehension. In the crucible of these cosmic tests, humans shone like supernovae, blinding, inescapably alive, and terrifyingly effective. Their victories resonated across light years, inspiring hope in the oppressed, caution in the indifferent, and fear in those who sought dominance. We, as alien chroniclers, could only record, analyze, and wonder. Had the universe witnessed the rise of a species capable of turning annihilation into opportunity? Could any force, cosmic or engineered, ever truly challenge them again? And as we cataloged another victory, another impossible maneuver, a new anomaly flickered across sensors, a subtle, deliberate pattern embedded in energy fluctuations. It was as if humanity itself, newly ascendant, were communicating through the very trials meant to test them. Whatever the message, we understood one thing with unshakable clarity. The humans had not just survived the galactic crucible, they had rewritten it, leaving the cosmos to recognize their audacity, their genius, and their inevitability. In the epochs following the galactic trials, humanity no longer moved as a single species confined to a single world. They became a constellation of purpose, their influence stretching across star systems, weaving together fractured planets, alliances, and civilizations with a vision that was at once deliberate and unstoppable. The alien worlds that had once dominated interstellar politics, species whose fleets had once been feared,
whose technologies had once been unmatched, now sought audience, favor, and understanding. Where once humans had been observed as anomalies, now they were arbitrators, architects, and symbols of inevitable transformation. From our observation posts, we cataloged feats that defied prior understanding.
Entire star systems were stabilized by human engineering, their energy grids harmonizing planetary orbits, regulating climates, and sustaining ecosystems in ways that combined science, art, and intuition. Human colonies emerged across nebulae, constructed with alloys and materials that seemed almost alive, responding dynamically to environment, threat, and need. Each decision, each deployment of energy or resources carried weight beyond the immediate. Every human act altered balances, shifted alignments, and reshaped the galactic map, sending ripples across civilizations that had long assumed dominance. Their ingenuity extended beyond survival or power. It was moral as much as practical. We observed paradoxes in their actions, humans capable of immense destruction, yet constrained by ethical threads we could not fully comprehend. They negotiated truces where annihilation seemed inevitable, redirected weapons of mass destruction to prevent suffering, and forged alliances with species we considered inconsequential, recognizing potential where others saw weakness. In doing so, they demonstrated a mastery over not just the cosmos, but the moral calculus of existence. Observing humans at work, we realized they had transcended the concept of dominance. They did not merely conquer, they inspired, challenged, and reshaped. Fleets that had once patrolled sectors for resources now coordinated exploration, trade, and defense with a foresight that bordered on prescience. Humans integrated technology, strategy, and diplomacy seamlessly, leaving allies empowered, enemies cautious, and observers like us awed. Conflicts, when they arose, were not mere clashes of power. They were symphonies of strategy, improvisation, and insight. Humans turned environmental hazards into tools of advantage, manipulated gravitational anomalies, and integrated energy flows into coordinated maneuvers that seemed impossibly orchestrated. Every engagement left lessons written into the galactic itself, altering not only tactical calculations, but philosophical understandings of resilience, adaptability, and audacity. Yet their ascendancy was not solely defined by power or intellect. It was their capacity to endure, adapt, and innovate that distinguished them. Civilizations that had once dominated without challenge now recalculated existence around humans, recalibrating their expectations, strategies, and even moral frameworks.
The galaxy learned to measure survival not by conquest, but by ingenuity, foresight, and the unpredictable audacity that humanity embodied. We, as chroniclers, documented this evolution with a mixture of fear and reverent awe. Every human colony, every fleet, every decision became part of an intricate tapestry that no alien mind could fully grasp. They had transformed survival into artistry, adversity into innovation, and presence into a force that reshaped cosmic understanding. Their ascendancy was most apparent in subtle acts as well as grandiose displays. Trade routes were stabilized not by threat, but by respect. Former rivals became allies not through coercion, but through recognition of shared vision. Even the smallest decisions, allocation of resources, deployment of knowledge, or the management of energy across systems, resonated with intention and consequence. Human influence radiated outward, altering planetary politics, interstellar commerce, and even the philosophical perspectives of alien civilizations. We chronicled their ingenuity, their audacity, and their paradoxical morality, realizing that humans had become something beyond mere species. They were a force of evolution, a benchmark of intelligence, and a lesson for every civilization that aspired to thrive in a hostile universe. Even as we analyzed, debated, and attempted to model their behavior, each new observation revealed layers previously unseen, reinforcing the profound complexity and power of their presence. And yet, there was always the underlying tension. Humans could destroy as easily as they could create, and their moral calculus remained inscrutable to even the most sophisticated observers. Each act carried consequence, and the ripple effects extended across light years, reshaping destinies, economies, and philosophies alike. We feared them, not as mindless predators, but as architects of inevitability, capable of rewriting the rules of existence itself. Ultimately, humanity had not merely returned to the cosmos, they had ascended. Every star system they touched, every civilization they encountered, every decision they made transformed the fabric of interstellar life. From our alien perspective, the universe would never be the same again. The vanished humans had become legends, not through conquest alone, but through an evolution of thought, morality, ingenuity, and audacity that left the galaxy irrevocably altered. And as we recorded their triumphs, a profound realization settled across the observer networks. Humanity had achieved not dominance in the conventional sense, but mastery, the mastery of existence itself. The cosmos, vast and eternal, now contained a species that had become both a challenge and an inspiration, a force that compelled recognition, caution, and awe. The universe held its breath, watching the humans reshape history, politics, and understanding, knowing that the trajectory of every star system, every civilization, and every observer would now bend subtly but permanently under the weight of human ascendancy. A millennium had passed since Earth vanished, and yet the echoes of humanity resonated across the cosmos with a persistence that defied expectation. From our distant observation posts, we cataloged colonies that spanned nebulae, fleets that traced arcs across star systems, and technologies that reshaped entire planets. Each trace of human presence was more than survival. It was a testament to audacity, ingenuity, and an irrepressible will. Where civilizations rose and fell, humans endured, evolved, and expanded the very definition of possibility. Alien historians debated endlessly over the paradox of human influence. Some called it chaos incarnate, others divine intervention, but all agreed on one principle: humans could not be predicted, contained, or constrained. Their philosophies, recorded across interstellar libraries, advocated resilience and audacity in the face of impossibility. Their innovations, technologies, energy manipulation, even environmental engineering, spread across systems like living lessons, inspiring civilizations long thought static. Every planet touched by human endeavor carried the subtle imprint of thought, creativity, and purpose, transforming not just landscapes, but expectations themselves. Earth, once vanished, had become a symbol beyond mere memory. Its orbit, its continents, and even the traces of vanished cities served as reminders that the universe had underestimated a single species' capacity to shape existence. Scholars, explorers, and diplomats referred to Earth as a benchmark, proof that unpredictability was not a weakness, but a force of cosmic consequence. From our alien perspective, Earth was no longer just a planet. It was a monument to infinite possibility, a locus of legacy whose influence would ripple for millennia.
Every engagement, every colony, every technological marvel left lessons for observers across civilizations. Humans had mastered the art of transformation, converting adversity into advantage, uncertainty into strategy, and presence into enduring inspiration. Those who once feared humans now revered them, chronicling their history as cautionary tales, prophecies, and sources of aspiration. Even species separated by light years internalized the lesson that to confront humanity was to encounter brilliance, audacity, and relentless creativity. The universe, vast and eternal, had learned a singular truth. Unpredictability, resilience, and audacity were forces the cosmos could not contain. Humanity had transcended mere survival. They had redefined the laws of engagement, morality, and possibility itself. And though we observed from afar, it became undeniable that any encounter with humans carried consequence. Every ripple of their presence, every innovation, every bold maneuver altered calculations, perceptions, and strategies across civilizations. From our alien vantage, the indomitable human spirit shone brighter than any star. We recorded, analyzed, and chronicled not just events, but the essence of what it meant to be human, to endure, to challenge, to inspire, and to redefine the limits of existence. In the end, humanity's legacy was not destruction, domination, or conquest. It was the embodiment of possibility itself. To encounter humanity was to confront the unexpected, the extraordinary, and the inevitable rise of something beyond comprehension. Their story, beginning with disappearance and culminating in ascendancy, would echo through cosmic history for epochs beyond reckoning.